Hello students, in this video I'm going to show you how to do a unit conversion. So as you can see in the middle, we have our basic units. We have liter for volume, meter for length, and gram for weight. So having these basic unit is not good enough because sometimes you might need to measure something bigger. For example, if you're going from Georgetown Prep to DC, you might want to use the unit kilometer instead of regular meter. If you were to measure the width of a pencil, then you might want to use millimeter or centimeter instead of your regular meter. So you need to be able to do a unit conversion, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So you need to start with our unit conversion chart, okay? We have our kilo, hecto, deca, regular unit, deci, centi, and milli. Every time you're looking at something to the right, whether it's deci compared to centi, that means centi is smaller. Every time you're looking to the right, those are your smaller units. Every time you look to the left, those are your larger units. Okay, so that means kilo is larger than hecto, right? Kilo is also larger than deca, but hecto is larger than deca, and then deca is smaller than hecto. Okay, so what about if you were to move from kilo to hecto? What does that mean? So if you move from kilo to hecto, you can look at these stairs on the right side. So going down the stair, every time you go down a step, that is 10 times smaller. So hecto is 10 times smaller than kilo. And then deca is another 10 times smaller than hecto. That means if you were to go from kilo to deca, deca is then 100 times smaller than kilo. All right, so that's when you move from the left to the right. What if you move from the right to the left? Centi, for example, is 10 times larger than deci, but then your regular unit is then 100 times, because it's 10 times 10, 100 times larger than centi. If you were to move 3 steps to deca, deca is 10 times 10 times 10, 1,000 times larger than centi, okay? So that's how you read the unit conversion chart. But there's an easier way for you to answer the questions, and I'm going to tell you this foolproof method now so that it's more likely that you can get the answer right. Okay, so here's what we do. You want to find the original decimal first, okay? So for example, our first question, the decimal is already given to you. It's 4.2, so it's right in the middle. The second one, the decimal is right between 2 and 5 as well. The third one, the decimal is not given to you, so it's behind the last number, so it's zero, right behind 0. The last one I forgot to erase is also right behind the 0. Once you find the decimal, you need to figure out how to move the decimal. Okay, and this is what you do to move the decimal. For the first one, for example, we have kilometer. So this is the unit that we start with. So that's what's given to you, okay? And then we're going to convert it to meter. So this is where we want to end, right? Or this is what the result or the answer is asking for, okay? But now you need to figure out what number should I put in front of meter. So kilo needs to jump 3 times to the right in order to get to regular meter. That means our decimal also needs to jump 3 times towards the right. Okay, so this is where our decimal lands. And now you need to fill in the zeros. We have a 0 here, we have a 0 here, because in order for our decimal to be at the end, you have to put some zeros in front of it. Okay, so this is our final answer, 4,200. So 4.2 kilometer equals to 4,200 meter. Okay, and this makes sense because if you were to think about this is 10 times 10 times 10 times, kilo is 1,000 times larger than the regular meter. So if you do 4.2 times something that's 1,000 times larger, you're going to end up with 4,200 meter, because meter is 1,000 times smaller of a unit. So this leads to something called large unit, small number, right? Because right here we have a large unit, then you need a smaller number in front of it because otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? If you have a large unit with a larger number, a smaller unit with a smaller number, then the two sides aren't going to be equal, okay? Now let's try the second example. We have 2.5 hectoliter. So this is now where we start. And then the deciliter, this is where we're going to end, right? So how many times are we going to move the decimal now? 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 times to the right again. 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is where we want our decimal to end up with. And then we put in our zeros. The answer is 2,500. Again, this is a smaller unit. We have a larger number. That makes sense. Now moving on to the next question. We now have centi, this is where we start. And then regular gram, this is where we end, right? So now we want to move to the left. We want a bigger unit. That means we need a smaller number. How many times smaller? 100 times. Because it's 10 times 10 is 100. So centi is 100 times smaller than regular, and regular is 100 times bigger than centi, okay? So now we need to see, we move to the left 2 times, 1, 2. This is where we want our decimal to land. So 1.2 is your final answer. Lastly, let's use a different color. All right, lastly, we have 7,700 millimeter. This is where we start. And then this is deca. This is where we end, okay? So we move our decimal, let's see, this is really hard to see. Let's try this one. We want to move our decimal 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where we want our decimal to land, okay? So the answer is 0.77, or if you write 0.77, that's all right as well. So this is how you do a unit conversion. You want to think about from a bigger unit to a smaller unit. What is the difference, right? Again, these units over here are smaller than these units over here. Every time you have a unit towards the right side of what you start with, that's a smaller unit, okay? So centi is smaller than deci. How many times? 10 times. Deca to centi, that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 1,000 times difference, but is it bigger or smaller? Deca, because it's on the left side, is 1,000 times bigger, and centi, because it's on the right side, is 1,000 times smaller. I hope this helps.